All right, and we're live. And Frozen.
Yay.
Also,
Let's
sounds
go.
good. Wow, this is such a great start. Anyways, so besides that, we have a new player today. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi.
All right. What's your name?
Hello.
Hello there, little guy. What's your name?
I'm Grant.
Nice. Okay. Thank you so much.
Oh, where's your mommy?
Guys, he's Grant.
I don't know.
Wouldn't you like to know, weather boy?
He's already role-playing boys aboard.
Bro, he's just 2 years old in real life.
He's a method
I
actor.
gotta go.
boys.
All right. Okay, we also got two commentators here.
Yes.
Would you
Yo.
guys like to introduce yourself?
I'm Davis. I've been commentating for a while now. I
Hey, my
play.
name's Eli, and I'm really smart.
All right. Now to get to the juicy stuff. This video actually has two sponsors today. First is
Ooh.
obviously Magic School. So
Yeah, Magic School.
Magic School.
Cool.
And we also have a second sponsor, which I'm wearing the merch of right now. It's more of an unofficial sponsor, but here, let me get this in the view.
D&D.
Can you guys see it?
Hold on.
Oh.
I can
it's
faintly
really
see.
bright.
Oh,
It's just
Oh, you're
yellow.
there we go. Wait.
Yo, this is a pure white face cam reveal.
Bro, yeah, you see that right there?
Oh
That-
my gosh.
That is
Wait.
G-Rant.
Is that the G-Rant merch?
That's the
Yeah,
G-Rant
G-Rant's
merch.
also on there.
All right.
Let's go.
You can buy G-Rant merch. You can buy Granticus 01 merch. All this is provided to you by our player here today. Isn't that right?
Yeah.
So please just look up on Google, type in, where can I buy that epic merch I saw on Twitch during that D&D live stream? And it should be the first link. Make sure you don't click any other download buttons. Just get free shirts now, but it's also paid.
90% of
Wait a minute.
will
You
go
can
to
spend
Riley.
$5 and get it all for free.
No.
Hold
not
the
again.
phone.
With that, thank you to our two sponsors, but mainly just to Magic School. So not gonna lie.
Mostly.
Anyways.
Yeah. I agree.
Anyways, today we're starting a new chapter in our little story here. The first chapter, that is, of our little friend Darr. So, would you like to, Morty? Would you like to tell us a little bit about yourself, your little character?
My little character
Yes.
being dragonborn, you see,
Let's go.
from the little town. Very, very little town of Freiburn.
That is correct. So, would you like to share anything else about this little town?
And I've lived here my whole life with my
Which is about 2 seconds.
Hasn't even started
2
yet.
seconds.
Yes. All right. So with that, I think we can start. You guys ready?
Yes.
Yeah, let's
All right.
go.
Well, let's do this, boy.
Morty.
All right. So, we're not gonna start this like most. We actually start this on a very cold day, out in the northern hemisphere. I'm gonna actually show that on the map right now where we are. So, down here is Nabia, where almost everyone starts, because everyone freaking loves Nabia for some reason. Then, if we keep going up, through the Deadly Sea, in the Path of Exile, and through the Holy Bridges, we eventually get to the Northern Hemisphere. And right next to Mento is actually where Tyler's character is, But on the other side of those, that Nordberg, we see Freiburn next in Ysigen Land. That little town right there. You see that? See that right there? That's Freiburn.
Just a wee little town, just tucked away, just right.
All right. With that,
It's a town.
we go through the storm and the snow and the lightning, and we see this little town, and you can see it has massive walls just erected throughout the entire place, with only one entrance. And through that town, we see a couple, and they give birth to a child. It's a dragonborn child, and they're both dragonborn, so this is actually normal for them, giving birth to a dragon and all. So, with that, I'm going to roll some dice, as always. Okay. So, Grant, or should I say Darr, your character is born very exploration driven. You go absolutely everywhere, crawl everywhere, and you are very fast as well. Sometimes it's a little too late before your parents catch you going towards the windowsill, and they get you at the last moment, and they have to keep a sharp eye on you pretty much constantly. But you also know that your parents aren't around a lot of the time. You're not sure why. With that, your dexterity is increased by 1, and your wisdom's increased by 1. And make sure you mark 2 off your pool, because we upgraded it twice.
Yeah, got it.
All right. So, through your early life of upbringing, you don't actually remember your parents very much. You kind of just remember being raised with a lot of different kids in a big house together. It was fun while it lasted, but you kept moving places and meeting new kids, and eventually you got kind of tired of it, and eventually relied more on yourself to survive. And with that, we are now at your early childhood age, which you're about 7-8 years old right now, and you haven't seen your parents in about a year, and you are being raised in what they call an orphanage.
Okay.
So, would there be anything you want to prioritize? Like meeting the kids, meeting the people in charge, trying to escape, anything like that?
Escape.
I'm gonna try to escape.
Escape.
Okay.
Escape.
Is that really what your character wants to do?
Yeah, because I want to get out and do some more exploring.
Oh, true. All right, with that, you are upstairs right now. There's an upstairs and downstairs. Downstairs where all the people in charge sleep. Upstairs was where the kids sleep, and there are windows kind of lining the door, or lining the beds back there. You see the kids kind of playing a game in the corner. Meanwhile, you sit on your bed alone. You realize you're the only dragonborn here. The steps lead downstairs towards the front door, but you also know the adults are down there. What do you wish to do?
Don't break your legs. Don't jump out the window.
I was gonna say no. I'm gonna try to sneak down the stairs.
All right. So you try to sneak past all the guardians. Make a stealth roll.
Okay. Which one?
Stealth.
D20.
Yeah, it's a
D20, I knew
D20.
that.
And then stealth is your
20.
dexterity,
Okay.
which being
Rolling.
7, isn't that -2? So
Actually, it's
whatever your
an
roll
8.
is minus.
Whatever my roll is -2.
No, because he's 8 now. Because his dexterity was upgraded
Oh, yeah.
once.
Oh, okay,
I'm
so it's 8, so it's -1, whatever your
Minus
roll
one.
is.
So I got
Yeah.
18, so that makes it 17.
All right. So with that, you sneak down the stairs and past everyone's watchful eyes. You get out the front door. It is blazing cold outside, almost like it's so cold it starts being hot. And what you see around you is it looks to be a very snowy town, and there's a path all around you. There's path straight, path left, path right. Where do you go?
I'm gonna take the path that's to the right.
All right. Give me 2 seconds here, because I gotta see where that leads. Because I didn't know you were gonna be a little escapey boy.
Escape.
He didn't know I was gonna escape.
You shouldn't have told him that he could escape.
Well, I mean,
The second
technically you can
told
do
him that, he
whatever.
was like, yes.
Yes.
Who am I to
Yes.
put down the child's natural curiosity? So, with that, you head over to the right and go towards sort of the upper part of the village or town, and you eventually get to some houses that you haven't seen before. Some people sort of stare at you kind of weirdly as you walk by. Make a Constitution saving throw.
Was that?
Constitution.
Constitution 20 again.
Yep. And I believe that's a
There we go.
-2.
What?
That's a -2
That's a
because it's a
-2.
7 instead of an 8.
Oh, that hurts my soul. A 5, so that makes it a 3.
Oof.
Oh,
All right, so
Yeah.
you are not made for this weather, nor are your clothes. You start getting freezing cold. Now, do you wish to continue forward?
No.
Mm.
No. It's too cold.
Okay, he goes back inside because it's too cold.
What do you wish to do?
Let's see. It's gonna get really crazy real fast. Maybe I'm gonna work my way back towards the orphanage.
Okay, so make a history check.
Where the there?
No, intelligence saving throw. My bad.
I'll just save it though.
Yeah.
I didn't lose anything on the last one, did I? The last roll.
Well, do you mean lose anything? What do you mean?
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
you don't lose
I
stats with
didn't.
rolls. So you're good.
Rolling. I got a 16.
Okay. You eventually find your way back to the orphanage.
Poggers.
Poggers, man.
Now what are you gonna do?
And
Do you go in the orphanage? Do you walk around it?
I know that's what I'm.
Really debating. He's like he's standing outside the door in frigid cold. Do I
Yeah,
really
you were
wanna go
shivering.
inside?
I
You
don't
were
know what to do.
you were freezing your.
Do I want to go inside where it's nice and warm? And yeah, I'm going back inside.
All right. As you go back
There we go.
inside, a couple of the guardians see you, and they scoop you up and start warming you again next to the fireplace. They start scolding you for leaving. Do you say anything in response?
No.
All right. So with that,
Nope.
they are now going to keep a much closer eye on you because they are what they call you are what they call an escapee.
Ah.
So,
Escapee.
you spend the next couple of years in the orphanage. Are you prioritizing anything?
Probably just to get to know everyone that's around there, like the kids.
Well, all right. So make a persuasion check.
Persuasion check. Fuck,
Charisma.
fuck,
Being an 8.
I
would be
know,
nice.
dude. Chill.
Ah.
A little bit of hostility.
Yeah. I rolled a 13.
Okay. And then that's -2.
Yeah, so 11.
Okay.
Wait,
Just
if
tell
it's
me
8,
the.
it's -1, right?
Oh. No.
His
It's
is
Dragon-
Dragon Ball, so +1 charisma.
Oh, okay. Yeah. You're right.
Yeah.
So just tell me your roll plus or minus whatever you have. Okay.
Alright, so then if I had 7, it would be a -1. Or if I had 8, it's a -1. Or
Yeah.
is it okay, so I rolled 13, so it'd be 12.
Okay, sounds good. You eventually make your rounds with the kids, and eventually learn that they all had similar upgradings to you. Their parents left them at a very early age, and they're not sure why. They get to see them every once in a while, and they're very confused. Is there anything else you'd like to do?
try to get to know some of the adults that are around.
Okay, make a persuasion check. What are you asking them? Or are you just introducing yourself and getting to know them?
Mainly just introducing myself, getting to know them better.
Okay, cool.
Tries to run away, comes back. So, by the way, my name's Darr.
How are you? Oh, come on, I hit my keyboard.
I rolled a 10.
Okay. Well, no. You don't tell me your roll. You just give me the total.
So then, here's my -1. It'd be 9.
All right. So, although the adults are pretty mad at you at this point, they introduce themselves as pretty much just part-timers who just wanted to earn an extra buck, so they watch the kids. They say the headmistress is yet to be here. All right, so with a couple more days passing, eventually a new face arrives. It seems to be a woman with a long dress and a bun. She looks to be a little bit older, and she introduces herself to all the kids. She tells you that she's the headmistress, and you may refer to her as mistress. So with that, she tells you you will all be assigned different chores or to do around the orphanage, and she assigns one to you, which is basically just taking out the garbage outside.
Okay.
Very risky. Letting
So-
the kid that escaped go outside.
Yeah.
Do you?
Okay, one thing. Sorry, not to interrupt, but just in case Grant doesn't know this, with the whole just saying the total, if you naturally land on 20 or 1, you don't subtract or add anything. That's just the number that you got.
All right. With that, do you just wish to do your chores just as normal, or try to do it better than anyone else, or kind of slack off?
I try to do it better than everyone else.
All right.
Give it
Well,
my A
make
game.
make a survival check.
Rolled that. That'd be strength, correct?
Survival was wisdom.
Wisdom. I got a plus. So I would subtract 1, wouldn't I?
It's
I had
what's
7
your-
and then I added 1 to it.
So it's an 8.
So it's an 8. So then I would minus at least 1.
Yeah,
So
you would
what I
minus
had-
1.
Okay, 12.
All right. So, you do your job quite well, more than most of the students there. Also make a Constitution saving throw after doing this for a couple days.
8.
All right. With being outside pretty much every day, throwing out the trash, you do realize that you eventually get sick. It seems like you're getting very weak, and you develop a cough. Eventually, you fall ill and are bedridden. They try their best to try to heal you, and it's been about a week since you originally fell ill. So eventually, they tell you they're going to get your parents for you, and they'll be by your side.
Yeah.
Do you wish to say anything back, or no, or ask anything?
No.
Okay. So with that, you stay in bed for all that time, and eventually, two people that you recognize approach you, and it seems to be your parents. They seem to be very wary, very almost frail, and they approach your bedside and say they're so sorry for not being able to be there for you, and they look at you and ask you, is there anything you wish to do before, well, if things don't turn out very well?
Let's see. At this point, I've been in the orphanage. Maybe see if we could do some traveling.
They look at you and say, oh, we can't really do much traveling. Is there anything you'd like us to buy for you with the little money we have?
Is there a limit on to what it would be?
They just ask, what do you want?
This boy. If I get a If I get a pet. I think it's really interesting.
They say, sure, yes, of course. Let us go find one. I'll be right back. And your mother approaches the mistress, and she asks her, as his final wish, he wishes for a pet. Can we get him one? And the mistress looks down at her and says, of course not. Not in my building. And she looks over at her and says, he might be dying. Please, just this once. And basically the mistress looks over at you, looks at your frail body with your father, and looks back at your mother and says, as long as he lives here, he may not. And your mother starts walking back towards you, and she looks sullen for a moment and says, I'm sorry, Darr. I don't know if it will work.
Let's see. What is there to do around Freiburg in general?
Well, since you're an orphan, you're not allowed to leave. So, you're are you asking, can you leave and go around Freiburg?
Yeah.
Your dad looks at you and says, you're too weak to leave your bed. I'm afraid you'll just get more sick. Here, would you like a toy, or I could get you a book?
Let's ask for a toy.
All right. Your dad snaps up and says, oh, of course, I'll be right back. I will go get the most expensive one we can buy. And your mother stays by your bedside. And eventually, make a Constitution save or a Wisdom saving throw.
11.
All right. With that, you slowly lose consciousness from how weak you are. And eventually, you wake up and you see a present sitting next to your bed. But no parents.
Oh.
I'm gonna reach to open the present.
All right. Make a Constitution or Strength saving throw.
So since my strength is 9, I wouldn't subtract anything, would I?
No, you would not.
Wait.
Wait, 7.
Nine's minus
9 is -1. Sorry.
Ouch.
Every
Okay.
every two numbers is when it changes to a different.
Yeah. So since it's 9, it's -1, so then 1.
Oof.
Oh.
You were way too weak to reach your arms over there. They stay in their bed. One sort of girl comes over to your bed. She looks human, and she's been introduced to you a while ago, and she asks you, Darr, are you awake?
And respond with yes.
She looks down for a moment and says, do you want me to open that for you? I can give you what's inside. I think your parents gave it to you a while back.
Ask for. Yes, can you for me?
She says yes, and she opens up the present for you, and on the tag she reads, to Darr from Mom and Dad, heart. And she opens it, and eventually she reaches inside, and it seems like almost like a wind-up toy. You've never seen one before, as you have not really had a toy before, and it seems to be a wind-up sort of robot-looking thing.
I asked her if she could wind it up to see, so we can see what it does.
All right. With that, she winds it up and she puts it on the table. And as it does, it slowly walks towards the ledge, and she picks it back up before it falls.
I'm gonna thank her for opening up the present for me.
She says, "You're welcome. Here. If there's anything you ever need, just ask for Leia."
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Say, would you want to play a game?
What type of game?
Um, well, you haven't been awake for a couple weeks, and we were getting kind of worried. So, we weren't thinking you were gonna ever come back. But just in case, I got something. And then she goes up to your ear and she whispers in your ear, "I stole it from one of the shops." And she goes over to her bed, which is a couple of ways from yours, and reaches under her bed for something. It seems to be a sort of a rectangle, like almost box-looking shape, made out of some sort of parchment paper. And she eventually grabs it and sits on the side of your bed and reaches in, and it seems to be a deck of cards. She reaches in there and says, "I can teach you how to play if you want."
I'll say, okay, I'll watch.
She eventually teaches you a game called Catch the Dwarf, and it's basically just played like Go Fish, and you're just trying to catch the dwarf the entire time by calling out certain numbers, and eventually you learn how to play the game. Do you wish to play with her?
Yes.
All right, make an investigation check.
That'd be. That wouldn't be intelligence, would it?
Yes, it would.
Okay, it would.
7 would be minus nothing. Or yeah,
7 would be -2.
no -2. 8.
All right. So you do lose your first game, but again, you guys play again and you get a little better at it. You guys seem to have a lot of fun. And when the mistress finally walks up the stairs, the girl, Leia, finally hides away the cards under her bed. And the mistress approaches your bed and says, "Oh, I see. You've awakened finally. Are you strong enough to get out of bed?"
I say I can try.
All right. Make a strength saving throw.
Oh boy. So you said every 2, so the 9 would be -2 as well.
9 would be -1. So basically,
This one.
you just round down.
Damn.
So 8 is -2. Well, 8 is -1, and 9
One.
would round down.
2 -1. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, round down, then divide by.
16.
All right. With that, you just get enough strength to reach your arms over and try to help yourself out of the bed. But as soon as you do, your legs give in and you fall to the ground. You seem to be extremely weak and fragile. And she helps you back into your bed and says, "Huh, I guess you won't be able to do your chores, will you?"
On with. No. Sadly, I cannot.
She looks over at you and says, "Well, what are you useful for?"
Right now, probably nothing.
Make a persuasion check.
This is getting really depressing.
You
Such a
tried
sad
to work.
start.
You take out the garbage and then just can't. You're bedridden for months.
Oh, snap.
Oh snap!
So I got a 4.
Oh. She looks down at you sort of sharply and says, "Well, such a shame. That kind of bloodline, I would have expected more. You could have been a sorcerer." And she slowly starts walking
That
away.
insults me too.
Leia creeps over to your bed again and says, "Did she just call you a sorcerer?"
Fun with, I guess she did.
She looks down and says, "Well, my parents were sorcerers. Were your parents?"
Say, I don't really know. I don't really remember.
Well, she seems to be a little bit older than you, and she says, "Well, do you know why they put you in here?"
No, I don't.
She looks down and says, "Well, my parents, they're what they call slaves for the supreme sorcerer. And, well, since they were working in the mines all the time and they had me, there was nowhere else to put me other than here." And that's where I've been all these years. I guess your parents are in a similar situation.
I'm gonna sit there and think, kind of ponder on that, kind of getting like one of those like open eyes, and there's like
Mm-hmm.
realizing that makes a lot of sense.
Mm-hmm. Eventually, she asks around with some other kids, and they gather around your bed, and each of them say their parents were sorcerers as well. And a lot of them say that their parents went somewhere called the Ice Mines.
Um,
Kind of ask if any of the kids know what it's like, which obviously they probably wouldn't, but I'm just curious.
Like to what?
Like what it's like if their parents have like told them anything about it.
Um,
Iceman?
yes. So the older looking boy, seeming to be about 10 years old, looks over at you and says, well, my parents say, it's better than being in the village. And their parents were slaves, and their parents before them were slaves. Um, they told us that, they pair the sorcerers together and they send them to the mines. Anyone with potential they send over there, and anyone like us, and he looks down at his hands and says, with no powers, we're sent over here.
Kind of start to wonder if there's a chance that I may have powers.
Okay. So, you just kind of ponder on that?
Yeah.
Okay. So, with that, the children leave for the night, and Leia says goodnight to you. And eventually you fall asleep. Eventually, when you wake up, you realize much more time has passed than you originally thought. Lara seems to be sitting next to your bed, and she says, "Oh, you're finally awake."
Ask her, how long have I slept?
I don't know. It's been many nights, many days. Um, the, the, the adults say you're getting worse. And at this point, you realize you can't even lift your arms, to play her card games. And she looks over at you and says, "That's okay. I can play for you." And she puts out two sets of cards, one in her hand facing up and one on next to you facing up. And she says, "We can just play like this, and you can tell me how to move the cards, okay?"
I respond with, okay.
She looks over at you and says, "Well, would you like to play again?"
Yeah, I'll do one more game.
All right. So make an investigation check.
3.
All right. Again, you lose quite badly to her, but you realize that after a little bit, you start winning a lot. Pretty much every game after that, you win. It seems like you're getting a lot better. Make a wisdom saving throw.
2.
Yeah, you just think you're the best gamer ever. So with that, she eventually smiles at you and says, "You see, I think what my parents tell me is the only reason why we keep going is because of our happiness on the inside. If we just keep holding on to that, maybe we can leave this place someday."
Sit there and once again think about it. And a smile comes across my face, giving me hope about it.
All right. With that, you hear steps once again coming up the stairs. It seems to be the mistress, and Leia doesn't hear it as well as you do. And when she finally does, mistress is already up the steps. She starts quickly gathering the cards, and the mistress steps over your bed and says, "Huh, what do we have here?" And Leia looks up with cards in her hand. Do you wish to say anything?
Say we were just playing a game.
Yes, and where did you happen to get the cards? And she looks up and says, my parents gave it to me. It was a gift for my birthday. She looks down at her, kind of scolding, looking, and she says, I don't think your parents have the money for that kind of thing. Now, where did you really get it? And she looks down once more, and she kind of looks sad. And she looks back up and says, really, my parents are making a lot of money down in the ice mines. I promise. And the mistress looks down and starts gathering the cards and putting it in her pocket. And she says, thieves should not be able to play. And she says, Leia, go to your bed. And she looks down kind of sadly and says, yes, ma'am. And she walks away to her bed. The only thing left around you is the shiny metallic robot toy next to your bed.
I kind of just look over at the robot and then look over towards Leia.
She looks over at you, and a single tear rolls down her cheek, and she buries her face in the pillows.
Oh.
So, the next couple hours pass, and eventually you are fed by one of the assistants, and they ask you, are you feeling any better?
I just respond with, sort of.
They say that's good, because we think you're going to make a recovery. At least we hope. And they walk back downstairs after you're done eating your soup, and they fed it to you. So eventually, another night passes. You fall asleep again, and this time you actually wake up the next day. You feel a little bit better, and eventually, you see the mistress lining everyone up for the chores, and she looks over at you and says, "You look quite better. Well, I think it's time for you to start doing your chores again."
Try to stand up.
All right, make a strength saving
Get out
throw.
of bed. 13.
All right, with that, you can barely stand, but you're very shaky, but you can stand a little bit. It uses a lot of your energy, though, to just keep that concentration. She says, all right, well, be off with you. Go do your trash duties.
Oh no.
I slowly but surely make my way towards the stairs.
You see Leia talking with some kids and pointing towards you. And as soon as the mistress is gone, a couple of the older boys help you with the trash. And they say, just stay up here. We'll go do it for you.
I thank them for it.
And they say, we would assume you would do the same for us. We got to stick together, us orphans.
I nod in agreement.
All right, so they take out your trash for you, and the mistress seems to be pleased because she didn't notice any of it. So eventually, it continues on like that for a while. As you were trying to get better, what are you focusing on during these years?
Trying to work my way, obviously, my strength back up, but then also trying to get to know the kids better, especially Leia, along with the guys that helped me out,
Okay,
becoming better friends.
so make a Constitution saving throw.
8.
All right, with that, you seem to be making a very slow recovery, but a recovery nonetheless. And eventually, you get to start hanging around with the kids next to their beds and just being able to walk over there and talk to them. Although you're not strong enough to go down and outside yet, the people still do your trash work for you. Make a persuasion check.
Persuasion check. So 12.
With that, you meet a lot of the kids there. All of them seem to have a similar story of growing up with their parents, but eventually being dumped here in the orphanage or being kind of tossed around from family to family. And they tell you that their parents all love them very much, and if they could, they would be with them right now. All of them sort of seem to have this complex in their mind of how their parents are living happy lives over in the ice mines and how it's a paradise for all sorcerers. Who have the gift, they call it. They look down at themselves, and a lot of them tell you that they wish that one day their powers will show so they can leave this place.
I sit there and think, how are my parents doing at that moment?
All right. And with that, about a year passes, and you're making a slow recovery. You at this point you can take the trash out. It's up to you though. They can still do it for you, or you can do it yourself.
I'm gonna try to do it myself.
All right. So with that, make a Constitution saving throw.
Don't roll a 2 again and just immediately get sick.
Is that why he's been sick all this time?
Oh, maybe not.
What is that?
1.
A natural 1.
Yeah.
No way.
So
Wow.
I
with
will
that,
grab the camera.
one of okay, yeah, we see it. One of these days when you're taking the trash out, the wind gets the best of you and you pass out outside. And eventually, they find your body and bring you inside. And even the mistress now tells you that when you wake up, you no longer have trash duties because you're too weak to handle it. She tells you she will give you duties of just pretty much taking an eye of like making sure no one's like doing anything wrong up here. So you're basically like one of the people who like looks after one of the kids as you're upstairs with them. With that, you are kind of thrust back into almost a deja vu state of being barely able to walk towards kids' beds and looking very, very pale, even though your scales used to shine a bright blue. With that, Leia tells you that you should never go back outside, especially since you haven't fully recovered.
Say, yeah, but I want to keep trying, but I know I can't.
You know what? Maybe we can just practice up here. You can slowly start getting better up here.
I nod and say, and I like that idea. And I'm willing
Alright.
to try it.
So, make a Constitution saving throw.
13.
All right. With that, you are getting better, but you notice Leia seems to have caught something. She was the one that was assigned trash duty, since you were no longer available to do it, and she is now bedridden as well. Do you wish to visit her while she's in her bed? So you go visit her pretty much every day and basically get her through the day. You even help feed her sometimes because that's kind of your job. The different kids all seem to care about her a lot. She seems to be almost like a sister to a lot of them. And eventually, the mistress, when Leia gets a little better, goes up to her and says, "Well, time for your duties again." And she hands her a trash bag. And Leia gets up, almost mad looking, and says, "Don't you see what you're doing to all of us? You're just going to make us worse. We just keep getting sick and dying. Don't you care?" And the mistress looks down at her and says, "Well, you're not in short supply, I'll tell you that." And she looks around and looks back at you and says, "I don't want anyone to do trash duty again. You're not going to give this to me, and you're not going to give this to anyone." And she throws the trash bag down on the ground at the mistress's feet. She looks over at Leia and says, "What did you say to me, little girl?" And Leia looks up at her and says, "Yeah, you're not going to give us any more duties, especially not outside. None of us are fit to do it. You don't even give us warm enough clothes to stay healthy." And she looks down again and says, "I'm sorry. I just, you could take very much better care of us. I don't know what came over me." And the mistress looks down almost with fire in her eyes. And she picks Leia up by her shirt and says, "You're going to pay for that." And she slaps her across the face. and Leia falls onto her bed, and she starts crying. Is there anything you wish to do during this?
I'm gonna try to run over there and get between Leia and the mistress.
All right. So make a dexterity saving throw.
Boy,
Oh boy.
why do I have a feeling it's gonna be a warm? 16.
Was it?
All right.
Okay.
With that, the mistress sees you coming and tries to kick you out of the way. You dodge it and start pushing her away with what little strength you have. She slaps you in the face and you fall to the ground. And when Leia gets up with her face red, she looks over at you on the ground, and a fire ignites in her eyes. She looks over at the mistress and says, "You will not do that ever again to my friends." And she stands up on her bed and puts her arms out, and fire shoots from her fingertips into the mistress, engulfing her in flame.
Let's go.
With that, the mistress catches on fire and starts screaming wildly, eventually going towards the balcony and falling off, and you hear a crash at the bottom and no more movement. You hear some splashing of water and some guardians running upstairs, some of the assistants, and asking, "What happened?" And Leia looks down at her hands and says, I don't know what I don't know what I did." And some of the guardians look over, especially one of the male ones, and he asks, "Did you do this to the mistress?" And she says, "Yes, I'm sorry." And he says, "Oh, don't worry about that. We can replace her, but we can't replace you." And she says, he says, "You'll be off by tomorrow. Say goodbye to your friends. You'll be off to the ice mines." And he heads downstairs with the rest. Leia looks down at her hands, almost in shock. And she looks for a moment down at you, still on the ground, and she shakes out of it. She runs to the ground and helps you up. She says, "I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to get you involved."
No, you're okay. You're good.
She looks over at you and says, "I don't want to leave. I mean, I've been picturing it all this time of what it will be like if I ever got my powers, but I don't want to leave all of you." And some of the kids gather around and almost looking teary-eyed. They all give her a hug, and she says, "I'll be back. I promise. Just wait here. When I'm old enough, I'll get out of the ice mines and I'll take all of you to safety." And with that, she says she's very tired and she wishes to go to bed. So with that, she goes to bed early. Is there anything you'd like to do?
Can I make a suggestion?
Sure.
Okay, so is there possibly a way where he could try to deceive the guardians, you call them, into like thinking his breath, his like electricity breath, is some sort of magic?
You
'Cause
could
that's why
maybe.
she's going to the ice mines, right? Because of the magic. I mean, I don't know if he wants to do that. It's just a suggestion.
Yeah.
Perhaps.
You've never done your electricity breath before. You remember your parents telling you you have certain powers that others don't, being a dragonborn, but it will unlock when you're older. Do you wish to try?
Yes.
All right.
Try it.
So make a survival throw.
Nope. 15.
All right. With as you close your eyes, and thinking about how much you would miss Leia if she left, you muster up all your strength, and with one final try to unlock your inner powers, you finally let out something from within you, and electricity sparks from your mouth and goes onto the floorboards, charring it.
No, that's a go.
I sit there feeling a bit I'm feeling confident, believing in myself a bit more, realizing what could happen now.
All right. So, do you wish to tell any of the guardians or keep it to yourself?
keep it to myself.
All right. So the next day comes, and Leia says goodbye to you and says how she will miss you, and she will come back for you when she can.
And then after she says that, I whisper to her about what happened the night before with my breath and the lightning.
She looks hopeful for a moment and says, well, maybe that's your ticket to the ice mines with us. I mean, I don't know if it's the sorcerer power they all talk about, but maybe it's good enough. And some of the kids overhear you, and they start gathering around asking what happened.
And I explain a bit of what happened the night before.
Some of the kids look around in kind of shock, and one of them says, it must be fate. The stars aligned. I mean, she's leaving today. You need to tell someone. Maybe you can go with her.
I choose to go and tell one of the guardians finally about what happened.
All right, as you start walking down the stairs, Leia puts her hand on your shoulder and says, I don't know if they'll let you go, but if you're really serious about this, there's no way they'll let you unless you're strong enough. And she looks down at you and says, even if you feel weak now, try to make them think that you're stronger than you really are. Because I know you're going to get better later, but you need to convince them that you're better now.
I nod to her as I continue down the stairs.
All right. So you continue down the stairs and see some of the guardians, some clad in some armor. They look at you, and a lady asks, what do you think you're doing down here?
I look back at her, and I start to explain what happened the night before.
She doesn't believe you at first, but she asks to go see where the charred wood is. Do you show her?
Yes. I take her up the stairs and show her the charred spot on the floor.
All right. So she looks down and says, well, Leia could have made this and just is covering for you. In order to believe you, you're going to have to show me this power.
I nod and I start to try to muster and get the strength to do it again.
All right, make a survival check.
Nine.
All right. So with that, you try to muster up all your strength, but something inside you feels a little weaker. And as you try to blow out, only a few sparks come out, and not as strong as before. She looks down at your mouth and says, well, I did see something. You might have something here. Do you really think you'll be up for it? I mean, you've been sick for a while.
I look at her and say, yes.
All right, make a deception check.
Deception. Would be charisma, correct?
Yeah.
Double checking. 5.
With that, she looks down at your frail and skinny body, and she says, well, I mean, if you die out there, it's not my fault. If you really want to go, I'll send them out with you and Leia. Do you want to?
Yeah.
All right.
Let's do it.
As she walks down the stairs and tells them, Leia hugs you and says, maybe we'll be together for a little bit longer. I mean, nothing is guaranteed, but I have a feeling that we're going to be both sent to the same place. I mean, the ice mines is where they want all the sorcerers to be, and that's got to be like a sorcerer power, right?
I nod and kind of agreeing, but then thinking again about what my parents told me.
All right. So with that, a couple of guards clad in iron armor come up to you both and say it's time to head out. Do you wish to follow them?
Yes, I do.
All right. So eventually you follow them out to the middle of the town square and eventually head over to the south side of the town. Eventually you get to a building which seems to be bustling and has many, many voices over there. And eventually you're led towards the back door and led inside. In here, you see many other kids, mainly much older than you, about 15 to 17, about that range. And they're all in similar looking dingy clothes as you. And they say, wait here.
I nod as they tell me to wait.
Leia looks almost terrified at the thought of, like, being somewhere else, although she has been dreaming of it this whole time, and you can see she is shaking, not only of the cold, but of her nerves.
I'll look back at her and say, we can do this.
Make a persuasion check.
Persuasion. 18.
She looks over at you and says, yeah, I think so. And she takes your hand. And eventually, you see someone come out and walk towards you two. It seems to be a man with slicked black hair and a top hat and a handlebar mustache. He seems to be a tall-looking human with very dapper clothes. He says, oh, hello. Might I introduce myself?
I nod at him.
Please, you two, come with me. And he takes his cane out and starts walking towards more of the front area. And he leads you over to a side room and sits you both down. He says, what are your names?
You say that my name is Darr. Then I mentioned Leia's name as well.
I see. And what your caretakers have told us is something very special is inside you two, isn't it?
I say, yes, sir.
Now I heard that you had some sort of lightning and she had some sort of fire, is that correct?
Once again, I nod.
Well, let me tell you something that is very, very special. And he gives you guys both a warm smile and grabs something from a glass case on his desk. And he hands it to both of you. Here, just for being special, you get a little treat. And he hands you some sort of candy.
I reach up and grab it with curiosity
All right.
as to what it is.
Leia unwraps it and sticks it in her mouth. It seems to be some sort of chewing candy.
I proceed to open mine and to eat it as well.
He looks at both of you. Very good, right? Very good. And Leia kind of nods her head. And to you, it tastes very sweet, almost like a savory taste. So with that, he continues to talk to you, and he kind of leans over his desk. He says, well, let me tell you something about Fryburn. We run on what we call sorcerer energy, and our main export is crystals that we find in the ice mines. Yes, you've heard of this? And Leia says that she's heard of the ice mines, and she knows her parents work there. And he says, oh, yes, I know. And after this conversation, both of you get to meet your parents again. Isn't that so sweet?
I start getting the feeling of excitement as I nod towards him.
All right. So he looks at both of you and says, now we just have to figure out if you have the right powers for the job. And he points towards Leia and says, stand. And she stands up, almost confusing looking. And he says, the candy has one side effect, and that is, oh, thank you so much, Granticus01, for interrupting the stream. Sorry, I'll turn that off. I'll turn that off.
Word, that literally takes up the screen.
Yeah, I'm so sorry about that. I won't let it happen again. So he looks over at you and says, that candy, although sweet, has a little bit of a side effect. It allows me to unlock your sorcerer powers so we can see what you really have. And he points over to Leia and says, fire. And she puts out her hand, and out comes a little flame. And he points over at you and says, stand. And
I proceed to stand.
You stand. And he says, fire.
I muster up all the strength I can. Try to push out the breath again.
As you do, nothing comes out because you were all spent for the day. And he says, well, that's interesting. I heard you had something, but I guess since you're a draconic creature, it might have been something else rather than sorcerer energy. And he says, that's such a shame. You two look so happy together. And he takes out his cane once more and says, well, let me introduce you to something. And he takes Leia's hand and kind of collapses in on the fire. And he says, you are what we call an elemental sorcerer. You will be what we call slave for our purposes. And he looks at you and says, well, you will be working for the government in the mines, and you'll be with your parents, and you'll be very happy. And he looks towards you and says, now you, on the other hand, you will also be happy, but it'll be a little bit a longer process for you. And he says, with your scales being as dingy as they are, I'm not sure what price you'll go for. And he kind of lifts up your little hair strands, whatever you would call it for a draconic creature, and says, but it seems like you do have something inside you. And he says, probably some draconic elemental thing. And he looks down at you and says, well, what we're going to do to you is what we call a slave sale. Do you know what that is, little creature?
I look at him confused and shake my head no.
He says, well, you're very valuable on the marketplace, but as it stands right now, you have no sorcerer powers, so you're going to have to be sold to the general public. And you'll have a very happy family. And he looks at both of you again and says, well, off to you. Go find your parents. And he opens up the door for you. And Leia and you sort of slowly walk out. Is there anything you'd like to do?
And I look towards Leia, say, I tried. I couldn't get it.
She looks over at you and says, it's okay. It's not your fault. It's just, I guess I just got lucky. I'm sorry. And she looks over at you and looks past you for a moment and sort of goes wide-eyed. You instinctually look behind you and you see a mother and a father, seeming to be human, and she runs towards them and gives them a big hug. And she says, Mommy, Daddy! And she hugs them. And behind them, you see your parents. Do you wish to approach?
Yes.
All right. So as you go over there, your parents hug you and they say, we heard that you finally unlocked your powers. Did you finally unlock the sorcerer energy?
Look at him, kind of put my hand on the back of his head. Not exactly.
Your dad looks down at you and says, oh, it was an electricity breath, wasn't it?
I kind of shoot a look towards his general direction with a confused look on my face and ask, how did you know?
He says, well, me and your mother have the same, although we have unlocked our sorcerer powers, so the government has use for us. And your mother looks down and says, I'm so sorry, Darr, but your life is going to be unusual. I don't know if they already told you, but they're going to put you up for sale. And, well, I don't know if we'll be able to see each other ever again.
I start to get a little upset, looking at her, going for a hug.
Your mother hugs you back and says, don't worry. We're going to try to find a way out of this place. And we'll find you. Don't worry. And as she is hugging you, the man with the top hat steps out and says, all right, enough with the chit-chat. Off with you. And your mother kind of looks angry at him and says, just give us a little bit more time. This is the last time we'll see him. Just give us a little more. And he says, up. And they both stand up. And he says, out. And they both start walking out. Your father turns towards you and says, don't ever give up hope. Find us. Find whoever you need just to keep surviving. And they walk outside the door. And he looks over at Leia's parents and says, same with you. And they start walking out as well, teary-eyed. And he looks down at both of you and says, all right, well, time to pop off. And he kind of grabs you by the hand and starts leading you away from Leia. And he motions towards the guards to grab her.
And I look back at her.
And say that I will do my best and everything in my power to try to find her again.
She looks down at you and says, "Bye, Darr." All right, and with that, he leads you out to a massive stadium where you are standing with some other draconic creatures. And there seems to be lights on you, and there is bard music playing in the back. He says, "Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the finest auction that this side of the town has ever seen." And with that, you hear whooping and hollering as the other draconic kids look at you with sullen faces. And with that, I think we should take a break. So, thank you guys for watching so far. We'll be right back with our sad tale of Darr. So thank you.
Depressing, bro.
All right, and we're back. So, is there anything you guys want to say to the audience before we continue here?
Ow.
Yikes.
Is there? Yikers.
It's just such a yike story.
Yo, can we get a few weird champs in chat?
I feel like this kid has
Just
just only known like bad things. So like, yeah, he was sick, and now he's getting sold into slavery, and never gonna see his parents again when he's done being sick. Like, what can happen next? That's more sad than what's happening now.
yeah.
Well, all right. Well, with that, let's keep telling our little tale here. The traveling tales of Darr. You hear the music blaring in your ears, even though there seems to be bards at the back of the tent. And he says, "Up first, we have our magnificent red scarlet dragon." And he points over to a smallish-looking boy holding onto a teddy bear and crying on the stage. You hear, "Woo! Yeah!" from the audience. And he says, "With a fiery passion, he can burn down any crops." And he points towards him, and he still is crying. And he whispers towards the dragon something. And the dragon kind of shakes his head. And he says, "Well, sometimes." And he says, "First starting bid for the Scarlet Red Dragon." And he sort of taps him on the head with his cane. And you hear from the back, 50 gold. And you hear another 55 gold. And eventually it keeps going on and on and on until it goes up to about 200 gold. And eventually he gets sold. And eventually he moves on to the second dragon. This one more white than the red. He sells him off just the same. He eventually sells for about 150 gold. And eventually he goes down the line towards you. And he finally says, "All right, folks, we got a special one today." And he sort of smacks you on the forehead with the cane. And he says, "All right, folks. Well, for our final selling bid," he says, "we have the roaring, the thunderous Darr." And he points towards you. Do you wish to do anything?
I kind of stand there.
Just
It's like, I
just
still
don't
don't really know exactly what's going on.
He says, "With electricity coursing through his scales, he can make the thunder god quiver in pain and afraid." And he says, with this, he can make powered machines go in a flash with his electricity breath. Isn't that right, Darr?
Yeah.
I give him kind of a puzzled look.
And he says, "Well, again, sometimes." And he says, "Starting bid." And you hear someone from the back, 100 gold. And kind of some people in the audience going, "Ooh." And eventually you hear the second bid, 150 gold. Eventually goes 250 gold.
Wow.
And it goes up and up and up until it's about, in total, 680 gold. And he says, "Anyone else for this magnificent specimen?" And he like kind of jabs you in the stomach, and you kind of recoil in pain. And he says, "Going once, going twice, sold to the man in the back. Congratulations!" And you hear a couple, "Daggnabbit!" and a couple of, "Oh, come on!" And you see the man looking at you with the top hat says, "All right, now go to the back." Do you wish to go to the back?
Yes.
All right, so you go to the back with all the other Dragonborn. You see the people who bought them start approaching them and eventually leading them off. And the man with the cane looks at you and says, and gets down on one knee and says, "Oh, thank you. You are so amazing." And he gives you a big hug. And he says, "Do you realize how much you just made me?"
Kind of just in a like awkward spot that I kind of shake my head and go, "No."
He says, "Well, you're a very special one. Apparently, whoever wanted to buy you wanted you really badly. I would be very wary of their presence." And he kind of snickers to himself. And he says, Well, as long as I get to make my money, it doesn't really matter to me. And he walks off, and eventually he goes and meets what seems to be like a family of... Sorry, give me a second here.
The spins. Oh.
Suspense.
It seems to be a family of humans, sort of darker looking color, and they all have dark looking hair, and all seem to be dressed in leather armor and white cloaks, seeming very fancy. And one has a sort of monocle and a braided hair, and he has a mustache to go with it. And he seems to be like handing the man with the top hat some money. You also notice what seems to be his wife and daughter, which is like about your age. They all approach you, and the man with the monocle and mustache, he looks down at you and says, "Hello, my son. What is your name?"
I look back at him and say, Darr.
He says, "Well, you're quite the specimen. I spent a pretty penny to get you." So you just wish to nod your head.
Yeah.
He looks at you and says, "Well, my daughter, since we're traveling so much, she needed a playmate, so I thought I'd buy you." And he looks over at his daughter, and she looks almost like upset. And he gets on one knee and says, "What's the matter, my darling?" And she looks over at him and says, "I said I wanted the red one." And he says, "Oh, don't worry, dear. This one is just as good. And this one cost me quite a bit more." And she says, "I don't care. I like fire." And she looks over at her dad, really upset. And he says, "Oh, I'm sure this one will play with you just fine." And he says, "Remember what happened to our last one?" And she says, "I don't care about that one anymore." And he says, "I know, that's why we got rid of it, to get a new one."
Yikes.
How many times do we have to get over this? And he says to her, "This is the last one we're going to buy, okay? You can't just keep getting them and get rid of them when you're bored with them." And she says, "I don't care. This one's stupid." And she kind of points at your scales, looking more pale than the bright blue they used to be. And she looks over at you and says, "All right, come on." And kind of grabs your hand and pulls you forward. Do you wish to just follow?
Don't really have a choice, so yeah.
All right. So the family leads you to a wagon. Seems to be a wagon pulled by oxen, and it seemed to be very fair inside. He introduces himself as... and for the notes, you might want to write down NPC names. I'm not sure if we said that before or not.
Yeah,
NPC
that's the
names?
most important thing to write.
You did not mention that.
Dude, I'm so fucking snuffly.
He introduces himself as Mr. Shanks, but you may call me Master. And this is my wife, Mrs. Shanks, but you may call her Mistress. And this is my little girl. And he kind of rubs her head. And she says, her name is... One second, I'm trying to find it. Her name is Kalia. And she looks like she's having almost a grin on her face, looking at your scales. And he says, "We are traveling merchants, and we are very wealthy. But just so you know, if you steal anything, we will have to leave you on the side of the road for dead, for the wolves." And he looks over at you and says,
All right,
"Your life does not mean anything other than just our daughter's playmate." And he looks down once more and kind of stamps his foot and says, "Well, let's be off. Remember, have fun." And he sort of gets on the oxen and whips them, and for them to go forward. And you guys start heading south. So the daughter introduces herself as Kalia, and she says that since you are my pet, you have to do whatever I say. Understand?
Say yes.
Yes, what?
Oh.
Uh,
You're kind of weird.
you're kind of
Bruh.
sus.
Sissy baka.
Yes.
She slaps you on the
ma'am?
face and says, "Yes, mistress. Remember it. I'm just like my mother.
Ma'am, okay.
Isn't that right, mommy?" And she looks down at her daughter and says, "Ah, you two seem to be so nice together." And she looks over at you and says, "I'm sorry that she slapped you. She can get that like that sometimes." And the daughter looks over at you and says, "Let's play."
I nod in agreement.
She looks over at you and says, "All right, time to play my favorite game." And she says, "It's called Princess." And she looks over at her mother and she says, "You're the princess." And she looks over at you and says, "You're the dragon, and I'm the prince." And she goes back over to her little stash of clothes and brings out what seems to be like a small wooden sword. Seems to be made out of just wood. And she also grabs a helmet and puts it over her head. And she looks over at you and says, "All right, now protect the princess." And she slowly starts walking up towards you.
I kind of stand there still trying to process everything that she just said.
She looks over at you and says, "Come on, put up a fight. I don't want this to be too easy. That reminds me of my last one. And you don't want to be like him, do you?"
I shake my head quickly.
Electrocute that bitch.
I really want to, but I'm trying to restrain myself right now.
All right. So she runs up to you saying, "Charge!" And she brings up her wooden stick and tries to hit you on the head. And make a dexterity saving throw if you want to avoid it. Do you want to avoid it?
I want to avoid it. $17.
All right. So
Oh, let's go.
with that, you avoid the stick with precise movement, and you see her kind of recovering from her attack. She chases after you again. Do you wish to run away? This is all in the wagon, by the way.
Nice.
I was going to say, like, this is
This
going
is
on
an
a wagon.
interesting.
I wouldn't charge like too far away. You'll fall out the wagon.
Yeah.
It's a very big wagon. So.
Okay, well, never
Kinda-
mind.
I pull back a little bit further to avoid another attack.
All right, make an acrobatics check.
That'd still be dexterity.
Mhm.
Yeah. Oh, that hurts the soul.
No.
I got a
Oh,
one.
no.
Natural
Oh
one.
my gosh. As you try to run away from her, you trip and fall and are laying on the ground. She says, "Opportunity of attack." And she grabs her sword and starts wailing on your back as hard as she can. Make a Constitution saving throw.
Oh my gosh, I got what Dino has. Sorry.
Oh, the snuff. Oh, dude, I'm electronically contagious.
Constitution check. I got
6.
So with that, you don't receive any damage because she's a little girl, but you do receive some pretty bad bruises. And she says, "All right, I win." And she says, "Okay, do you want to play again?"
Kind of give her. I'll say yes.
All right.
Make this interesting.
So she says, "All right, let's switch roles." And she gives you the sword and the helmet, and she gets on her all fours and gets down on the ground and says,
That bitch.
"I am the dragon now, and you're the prince. Now try to get your princess."
Whack.
And at this point, the mother doesn't seem to be paying attention, and she's sewing something.
Whack. Whack.
I'm gonna choose to go in for an attack.
All right, so what are you
Whack.
aiming for?
I want to say her head, but I'm not going to.
Right for the tip.
If you get a nat 20, you'll like kill her.
uh, I'm going. I'm gonna go for the arm.
Okay. So, make an attack roll.
Which die is that?
You just roll
D20.
a D20, right?
Yeah, and then I believe you add your dexterity modifier.
Oof.
So then, what would that be?
-2.
Your dex is it 7 or is it upgraded
No,
to 8?
it's 8.
My dexterity is upgraded to 8, and my strength is 9.
I didn't catch that. My fault.
So it would
So
just
it
be
would've been
-2,
-1.
right?
I believe
Or
so.
-1. Oh, so
Oh, -1.
so
Sorry,
1 or
-1.
8 is 1.
6.
All right.
Oh.
So, she dodges out of the way from your attack, and she grabs onto your leg and tries to bite you. Make a Constitution saving throw.
Yikes! Kill her.
Feral.
Oh my
Dude, she belongs in the
God.
streets.
Show her some of that electricity that your father paid so much for.
want to. Have to wait for the opening first. I rolled for Constitution, right?
Yeah.
Just had a brain for it. 7.
Uh,
No.
as,
Ouch.
6.
Okay, as she
Six.
chomps down on your
Getting
leg,
worse.
she leaves a bite mark the size of her mouth, and you yelp in pain and fall to the ground, dropping the sword. And she says, "Ha ha, I win!" And she says, "Unless you keep on fighting."
Whack.
Yeah, I'm gonna go back. We're gonna keep fighting.
All right. So she says, "You have one more chance. Now do your best." And she gets on all fours again.
Oh, she's still the dragon.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Whack.
I'm choosing to go in for another attack.
All right. So you make an attack roll.
Is that
Come on.
15?
All right.
Let's go.
So,
Whack.
wait, what are you aiming for again? Her arm?
Yeah.
Okay. As you bring the sword down, not using all your strength, obviously, you bring it down on her arm. She tries to dodge out of the way the same way, but you remembered this time, and you swing as a counter swing, and you hit her arm on the shoulder, and she falls to the ground, and she looks over at you, and she looks over at her arm, and you can see a little, like, minuscule welt forming. And she looks over at her mother, and her mother doesn't seem to be paying attention. And she starts crying. Wah! He hit me!
Gosh.
And her mother looks over and says, "Oh, I'm sorry, what happened?" And she says, "He hit me with the sword. It hurts." And she says, "Oh, honey, stop the wagon." And she goes down and tends to her a little girl's wound and says, "Oh, it doesn't seem to be that bad." And her daughter looks up and says, "Oh, but it really hurts." And her father comes back and says, "What seems to be the ruckus?" And he looks over to you.
I look back at him and say that we were
I
in
saved the princess.
I saved the princess, and then after that, I kind of point and explain a bit of what happened beforehand, and then I show him the bite mark on my leg.
And make a persuasion check.
Oh gosh, please! Oh my!
Natural.
No.
You got a 4.
He drop kicks you.
All right. So he looks over at you and says, "Well, your wounds don't seem to be that bad. I mean, you're kind of made for this. You're a dragon. I mean, what would your ancestors think?" And he kind of looks up in the air and says to himself, "Wait, is that how it works? Are you from a dragon?" Anyways, did you really hit her?
I like her.
I mean, on your first day. And
Right.
he kind of kisses his daughter on the forehead and says, "Oh, sweetie, just go take a rest with your mother." And he says, "We'll punish him later, okay?" And she sort of out of sobs says, "Okay, Daddy, as long as I get to watch." And
Kill her. Kill them all.
the dad looks
Dude.
over, kind of surprised, and says, "Well, okay." And he gets back on the wagon and gets off. And eventually, it is now nighttime, and he says, "Let's camp out for the night." And he sets up shop, and you guys are now on the road. So you notice a river over to your left, and it seems to be going up to the north. From there, he gets some bread out for you, and he also gets some meats out for everyone else. And he says, "Eat up. Eat as much as you would like."
The dragon doesn't get
I-
any. Unfortunate.
I accept it and start eating.
All right. So you eat the entire thing, and he looks over at you and says, "Is it right if we talk for a moment?"
I nod to him.
And he kind of takes you to the side next to where the wagon is, and he starts messing with something on the inside. He says, "All right, well, I have to be frank with you. My daughter, she's my sweetheart. She is the love of my life, but she is a bit spoiled, and that is me and her mother's fault, I admit. But you must go easy on her. If you're playing games with her, let her win, for God's sake." And he's shuffling with something inside a drawer, and he says, "This is a warning, but of course, if you do this again, I will have to take more extreme measures. Is that okay?"
Yes.
And he finally takes something out of his drawers. It seems to be a long whip, and he says, "Well, all right, let's get this out of the way." And he leads you out to the forest and says, "All right, Kalia, come with me." And she says, "Oh, is it time for the whipping?" And he says, "Yes." And he says, "Please go hug this tree."
Screwed up family, dude.
Grab.
I guess I'll go and hug the tree.
All right. And as you do, he
Pretty comfortable.
wicks up for the whip and whips you. Make a Constitution saving throw.
Oh crap! Sweet Jesus be a fence.
Oh well, he's dead.
I got a 3.
Oh my gosh.
Are these broken dice? Do they only have freeze on
Okay,
them?
yeah, keep going. I'm switching.
As he lowers his whip after that, he can see the blood come across your back, and you slowly fade out. And he says, "Oh, did I really do it that hard?" And that's the final thing you hear before all your HP is taken away and you are knocked unconscious. Eventually, you wake up again, seeming to be in the wagon. The girl seems to be looking down at you and says, "Are you all right?"
Thanks to you. Don't say that to her.
I look back at her and kind of nod.
All right. So, she looks over at you and says, "Well, that's lucky, because I want to play again."
She... Did that count as a short rest? What he just did?
Yes, he has all of his HP back.
Let's go!
Let's
Electrocute the
go. I'm not in agreement. with her.
wait for it though. Don't just
know.
whip that out there.
Oh.
Uh-huh.
All right, so do you say yes?
Yes.
All right. So she says, "Let's play it again. My favorite game, Save the Princess." And she brings out the sword and the knight's helmet again and says, "Well, you're the dragon, and this time I won't go so easy on you." And she puts the knight helmet down to where you can't see her eyes. And the mom seems to be nowhere to be found. And she says, "This time I'm going to make you hurt." And she says, "This will be payback for what you did to me." And she starts charging towards you, but the wagon halts all of a sudden. And you hear, "Whoa!" And she falls to the ground and lifts up her helmet and says, "Daddy, what is that?" And he says, "Just 1 second, honey. Me and your mother will find out." And you hear them get off and go onto the ground. The daughter slowly peeks out the little sides of the cart, which seem to be covered, and she's looking outside. Is there anything you would wish to do at this time?
I'm still inside the wagon.
Yes, you are.
I'm gonna peek out the other window.
Okay. As you do, you can barely see what's happening. You see another wagon is coming towards you all, and they seem to be taking up the entire road. And there's 2 black stallions in the horse area, and you see a man dressed in all black whipping them. And he seems to be speaking in a language you don't know. You are looking forward, and you see the mother and father slowly approaching them, and they seem to be talking. Is there anything you wish to do?
I look towards the daughter and ask her to see if she might know what's going on.
She looks over at you and says, "Well, I see what all you see, dummy." And she looks out the window again, or out of the side again.
I choose to be patient and see what happens what they say when they come back.
So eventually the wife comes back and gets in the back of the wagon and says, "Oh, don't worry. It's just a small miscommunication. We don't seem to speak their language." And she gets out a book and starts flipping through some pages and says, "Well, here, you speak Draconic, don't you?"
Oh man, what to do? I don't really. Technically, I don't know it almost.
You do know Draconic. You can speak and read it.
Okay, then I nod back to her.
She says, "Well, maybe you'll be able to help." And she says, "Come with me." And she walks over to the other wagon, and the man in black seems to be sitting up there, all covered with a hat, and you can't see his face. There seems to be 2 younger men with masks covering up their nose and downward, and you see they have white hair and sort of dark purple grayish looking skin, and they seem to be clad in leather armor, almost stained black, and some of them seem to have weapons on them. And you can see the father says, "Okay, calm down. We just have a little miscommunication, okay? We're translating right now. Don't worry about it." And you see one of the men says something harsh in another language you don't understand. And the mother kind of comes forward and says something in a language you don't know. They respond, and she says, "There's nothing in my book that has their language." And she looks towards you and says, "Here, speak Draconic to them. Maybe they'll understand."
Proceed to do so.
All right. So as they look at you, they look kind of confused, and they look all up and down you, and they see the bite mark. And they look over at the parents, and they sort of get closer. And eventually, the daughter comes running out and says, "Mommy, Daddy, what's the holdup? I want to play with my pet, okay?" And the father says, "Get back in the wagon, sweetie." And as he's turning around, one of the men grab the father and push him to the ground, while the other grabs the woman's hair. And you see the man in black start eating an apple. And is there anything you'd wish to do?
No, I'm kind of sitting there a little confused. What's going on?
All right. So with that, the husband says, "Oh, please, no, just take whatever you want. Just don't harm us." And one of the men from the wagon jumps out and runs towards the little girl and grabs her and brings her over. It seems to be 2 more men hop out with the same looking clothes, almost like a uniform, and go into the wagon. And they have bundles full of what seems to be like food and goods, and also a sack of gold. And they all put it in the back of the wagon. and one of the seemingly to look pointy-eared people looks over at you and gets on one knee and points towards the bite mark.
So wait, do they speak I'm having a brain fart.
Draconic?
Draconic. Do they speak it then?
No, they don't seem to speak it.
Obviously, they don't speak.
If they're pointing at the bite mark, then they're probably asking what did it, and you point at the girl that did it.
I'm gonna say that. I'll just point directly at the daughter.
All right, so
Just behead her.
They speak in the other language to one another, and eventually one of them goes to the back of the wagon and gets out a pair of handcuffs. And he points at you and points at the family and points at the handcuffs, and he kind of makes an expression like, "What?"
Like,
The people that just pulled out the handcuffs are looking at me and pointing towards the family.
Yes, and they're like asking you, "What?"
Like asking if they did it or
You're not sure.
Like I'm assuming like you shake your head yes, and they'll handcuff them.
yeah.
All right.
Okay.
So, one of the men kind of nods to each other, and they put the handcuffs back to the wagon and make them get all on their knees. And the one sort of leading man points at the father and asks, "What again?"
Saying, okay.
So he's saying what as he's pointing to each to the man right now.
Yeah.
I would assume he's asking like what did the man do to me? I guess would be the best way to say it, or
just simpler to do I kill this one or not? It might be that simple.
be
Who
honest. I'm gonna shake my head no, especially if they're thinking about like killing them, because honest, as compared to the daughter and the mom wasn't that bad either, but the dad's pretty nice, pretty chill.
All right.
Basically.
So as you shake your head no, he moves over to the next one and then points at the mother and then kind of asks, "What?"
I shake my head again.
All right. He moves over to the daughter and points at her and asks the same thing.
Whack. Whack.
Now I know what he's saying. What, dude?
Whack.
And I nod my head yes.
All right. He pulls
Let's
out a dagger
go.
and slits her throat.
Yeah, let's go.
Blood starts coming out of her mouth and a throat, and she falls to the ground, kind of squirming on the ground. The mother and father start crying and saying, "No, no, no!" And both of the two men he nods at, they both stand behind them and knock them on the head pretty hard until they fall unconscious on the ground. And they all start getting in the wagon and nod towards the driver, and they start turning around.
I'm gonna try to run towards them if I can.
Okay. As you do, you can see they're all in the wagon, sort of talking to each other in the language. And one of them looks at you and asks, or points towards the wagon and shrugs his shoulders again.
To their wagon or to the wagon I was in?
No, their
previous?
wagon.
I'm gonna nod yes.
All right. One of them helps you up, and you get into the wagon. And they turn around and keep going down the trail you were already going down. And you guys follow the river towards who knows where. And with that,
you have successfully joined a cult. Great job.
With that, I think we're gonna leave it off for this session. Man, that was much different than a lot of other sessions.
Yeah,
Why'd
dude.
you say that?
A little girl died. He joined a cult and was sold into slavery.
They're sold into slavery.
Not in that
Girl
order,
dies.
but
He also almost died to his sickness because he took out the trash wrong.
Literally.
he was trash at taking out the trash.
Man, I will say I really enjoyed that session. I thought it was very good.
Me too. It was a fun listen, honestly.
Yeah, it's a very sad story so far, but it's like intriguing also.
But now he's in a cult,
So
so
many
everything's gonna be
deaths.
fine.
Oh my god.
All
Is
right.
that the most death you've seen so far in one
I
in
think
one
it
session?
is.
Yeah, definitely for me.
It's like Mistress from the orphanage dies, and after that we get
The little girl
Bertha
died.
taken.
Well,
Yeah,
you got your payback, I guess. I don't know if you were expecting her to die, but
Oh, also, your
I didn't
childhood,
really. I thought they were gonna like. I honestly don't know what I thought they were gonna do. But then I realized I'm like,
Uh,
oh, they're asking who did the bite mark. I'm like, yeah, she did it. Then they're like, they pull out a dagger and slit her throat. I'm like, oh my gosh. I still got my dragon breath.
Yeah,
that
I don't
moment
need another
literally-
short rest yet.
Yet.
That moment just jump
You should have
scared me. I didn't
like, you
expect
should
it to
still have
happen.
like breathed on her body and like in a way of teabagging her.
all right.
I
Well,
just-
actually, before we go, I'm gonna upgrade some of your stats because it's been quite a while. There's just been a lot of role play, so I just haven't had the time to think about it. So your
Joined
strength
cult,
gets
charisma
upgraded.
goes up.
No, your strength goes up by 0 because you've been bedridden most of the time.
Zero.
Dexterity goes up by 0 because you've been bedridden the most of the time. Your constitution goes up by 0 because you've been extremely sick. Your intelligence actually goes up by 2 points
Hey,
because.
quick question:
Sorry, what?
Did he get over the sickness?
He still
think so.
is pretty
Like-
frail, but he's gotten pretty much over the sickness at this point.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So intelligence goes up by 2 because you've been pretty much on your own playing cards the entire time. So you got a little bit smarter. So yeah, tell me when you're ready for the next one.
Ready?
Yep. Wisdom goes up by 2 because you've been meeting quite a few people at the orphanage and sort of took that time looking around. So that gets upgraded by 2.
Now the cult levels the charisma.
And also, your charisma increases by 2 because of your relationship with the kids at the orphanage.
And not because of the cult. No.
No,
Damn
not
it.
because of that. So, tell us your
Not yet, at
stats.
least. Okay. Strength is 9. Dexterity is 8. Constitution is 7. Intelligence is 9. Wisdom is 10. And charisma is 10.
Cool.
Ooh.
You have some that don't minus now. Let's go.
I
Yeah.
know, right?
So, Grant, did you have a good time?
Yeah, besides the depressing start.
Yeah. Well, the entire thing was kind of depressing until the end there.
Yeah, but yeah.
All right.
Really argue.
Well, again, thank you to our sponsor, Magic School, and to G Rants, the channel. But seriously, check that out on YouTube. And do you guys have anything to say to the audience before we leave off today?
Yeah. Thank you for stopping by. If you watch the VOD 3 more times, I might love you.
Wow.
So.
So,
Don't join a cult in real life, guys. It's not as poggers as it is in the story.
It's only poggers in this story.
thank you
Joining
all
a
for...
cult's only good if it's funny.
Yes. Thank you all for watching. I know this has been a depressing one, but if you want to get a bit of a cheer up, I'd recommend watching The Grim Tales of Grimm. Besides the name, it's actually pretty funny.
Just don't
So,
watch this.
yeah, just
So-
this entire story, if you're prone to like being affected by
Depression.
sad stories, just don't do this one because the only thing I'm doing here is trying to make Grant depressed and by giving him the worst life possible. So don't worry about it. Just don't watch this
So we're
one.
gonna need a
Okay.
disclaimer for the next one for Grant. This is really sad.
It's a YouTube video. Disclaimer right at the start.
Yeah, should we?
If you have any signs of depression, do not watch this video.
Yeah. All
It'll
right.
only make it worse.
Well, again, thank you guys for watching, and we will see you
Okay,
hopefully
guys.
tomorrow. So, again, see you. Goodbye.